Planet Dolan.
From predators under the bed to creepy exes, we look at 8 terrifying accounts of intruders hiding in people's homes. Hey everyone, my name is Melissa. I'm here to caress your brain cells with weird facts from all over the world. Number 8. Guard cat. 5-year-old Sam was staying at his mom's place and decided to sleep in her bed rather than his own. The mother's first-floor apartment had just 2 bedrooms, directly across the hall from one another. In the middle of the night, Sam wakes up to see his cat on high alert. He watches as the cat turns into his bedroom and starts meowing. Just as Sam is elbowing his mom to wake her up, they see a large figure standing by the open door. He quietly slinked away from the bedroom down the hall. Sam's mom throws her son out the open window, then leaps out behind him like a goddamn ninja. When the cops arrive, the shadowy figure is long gone. But in the water heater closet was a notebook with names and drawings, as well as a pair of gloves and gum wrappers. The intruder had broken in earlier in the day and had waited for them to fall asleep. Number 7. Don't go in the basement. A 16-year-old girl is house-sitting for a family friend. Late one night, home alone, she hears a weird clanging noise coming from the basement. She decides not to go down in the basement and instead calls 911. She explains what's happened, but tells them not to rush. It's probably nothing. Within 2 minutes, several cops are at the door. 4 cops make their way down into the basement, and 1 stays with the girl. She hears yelling and a struggle. The cops bring out a wild, deranged-looking man. He's been sitting on the washing machine, banging a machete to lure her down. She asked why they'd come so quickly, and the cop explained that when she'd hung up the phone, the operator heard a second click of somebody else on the line. He was listening. People in horror films should take note of this girl's example. The popo ain't always a no-no. Number 6. The monster under the bed. One woman entered her apartment after a 12-hour shift and is looking forward to a date with her bed. She turns straight into her bedroom, but when she walks in, she notices a strange movement under her bed. She stops and says to herself out loud, "Damn, I forgot to lock my bike." She exits her apartment and calls the cops. Smart woman. The cops arrive and find a man that had broken in hours earlier and was waiting for her. Turns out the guy has a rap sheet a mile long. He's a convicted rapist, no less. This girl was just lucky she didn't nod off on the couch instead of going in her bedroom. Ugh, shudder to think. Number 5. Attic ghost. Theodore Conies was homeless and broke, so he went to an old friend to try to get some cash. But Philip Peters wasn't home, so he let himself in and decided, I'm gonna live in this guy's attic, he won't mind. Conies lived secretly in the house, stealing food while Peters was out. He was finally busted, and in a panic, he bludgeoned the 73-year-old Peters to death before going back to his hidey hole. Police were confused. All the windows and doors were locked from the inside. The attic trapdoor looked too small for anyone to fit through. So Peters' murder went unsolved, and Conies lived in the attic for another 9 months. But police eventually found him. He spent the rest of his life in prison, which he didn't mind, since there was more space in his cell than in that tiny attic. Number 4. Carlo the Creep. Back in 2005, one woman and her friend were hanging out on their day off from a busy hospital. The friend saw something move underneath her bed and took a gander to see what it was. There, he found Carlo Castellanos Faria, the 32-year-old valet from their work. The friend restrained Carlo while they waited for the police. It turned out he'd been hiding in the apartment for 2 days. Cops found Carlo's bag containing latex gloves, condoms, and a power cord. I'm not sure what he had planned, but I'm betting he wasn't making balloon animals. He'd also hidden a camera in the room. The creep got into the house by making a copy of her keys. At least he went all out with his stalking. Number 3. Drugs are bad. A couple came home to see that their house had been broken into. The place was a wreck, but nothing appeared to be missing. Whoever had broken in left chunks of hair sprinkled around the house, like some kind of psycho's pixie dust. The cops searched the property and left with the reports in tow. When the long day was finally over, the pair went to bed, ready to forget about the whole ordeal. Just as they're drifting off, they hear the guttural growling of an animal from under their bed. So they fuck out of there and call the cops. The cops find a small, ragged woman beneath their bed clutching a knife. Turns out the growling woman was on a meth rampage and couldn't remember where she was. So, remember kids, if you think there are monsters under your bed, it might just be meth heads.
Number 2.
Tender bartender. A bartender came home earlier than usual one night to find his apartment not quite as he'd left it. As his van approached the duplex, he was surprised that his cats came to the window, as they normally don't. As he was shrugging this off, he saw that the kitchen light was on when it wasn't before, and saw movement inside. Very freaked out, he called the cops. 5 minutes later, the cops told him to wait in his car and went in. He could hear yelling, and after what felt like forever, they emerged with a woman in handcuffs. It was a woman that he'd kicked out of his bar recently for being drunk and disorderly. She had been waiting for him in his bedroom closet with a large knife and a length of rope. This lady sounds like one hell of a vengeful drunk. Bartenders beware, you're in for a scare.
Number 1.
Single mother Tracy was having a hard enough time lately, raising 5 kids on her own. In 2012, she started hearing some odd noises from her attic. She and 2 of her sons went to check it out and couldn't find anything up there. They thought, Mom's just being paranoid. Even when the nails from the roof started to fall out. A few days later, a small piece of plaster fell onto her head from the ceiling. Then, after hearing a loud noise, Tracy sent her nephew to check it out. There, in the corner, he found Tracy's ex-boyfriend from more than a decade ago. He'd obviously been living in her attic for a few weeks and left behind cups of urine and feces. What a charmer. He'd also cut a small hole in the plaster above Tracy's room. This creepy Romeo had only been out of prison for 3 months. Unfortunately, he managed to get away, and there are no reports of him being found ever since. So check your attics and check for meth heads under your bed. Oh, and always call the popo. Catch you guys next time. In a maximum security mental hospital. After that, he was put in a lower security hospital, but he escaped and hasn't been seen again to this very day, making him the longest running escapee in New Hampshire history, if he's still alive.